Phase 1. The Nighthawk. You are 24. The year is 2000. You have in your savings account $6,800. You need a bike. You go to a used lot on a Saturday in September. The salesman walks you to a 1997 Honda Nighthawk 750 with 22,000 miles on it. The Nighthawk is technically maroon. The Nighthawk has a cracked mirror. The Nighthawk has a stock exhaust. The salesman tells you still has some life in it. You pay $4,200 in cash. You ride the Nighthawk home. You sit in your apartment that night, and you do, on a piece of paper, the math. The math says that if you keep the Nighthawk for 10 years instead of trading up every 3, you will save roughly $19,000 in payments, insurance bumps, and depreciation. You fold the paper, you put it in a drawer, you forget about it. Frank is your dad's friend. Frank is 51. Frank has ridden bikes for 30 years. You see Frank at the garage the next month. You tell Frank about the Nighthawk. You tell Frank you got a deal. Frank does not say good job. Frank does not push back. Frank wipes his hands on a rag. Frank asks one question. Frank asks, "Do you know what a bike actually costs?" You say, $4,200. Frank says, "No, a bike costs whatever the next bike costs. Most riders buy bikes in chains. The Nighthawk is technically the first link in a chain. The question is whether you're going to keep buying." Links, you laugh. You tell Frank you will ride the Nighthawk until it dies. Frank does not laugh. Frank puts the rag down. Frank says one thing. Frank says most riders say that. Most riders mean it for about 18 months. Phase 1 is complete. The Nighthawk is at 24 just a bike. The Nighthawk will not at 50 be just a bike. Phase 2. The first decade. You are 24 to 34. 10 years go by. The Nighthawk by year 10 has 69,000 miles on it. The Nighthawk has had 2 batteries, 1 clutch cable, a chain and sprocket set, and a mirror that cracked further in a parking lot in 2004 and was fixed with $12 of tape until you could afford the real one. Derek is your brother. Derek is 22 when you buy the Nighthawk. Derek at 26 buys a Sportster. Derek at 30 trades the Sportster for a Ducati Monster. Derek at 33 leases a second Ducati because Derek says the lease is basically free. You do not, when Derek says this, correct him. You ride Derek to the Ducati dealership on the Nighthawk. Your friends make the jokes early. Your friends call the Nighthawk the beater. Your friends ask on a group ride in 2003 if you're sure it'll make it up the pass. The bike makes it up the pass. You are sure. The savings for 10 years are real. The bike payment you do not have is on average $380 a month. You put the $380 every month into a boring index fund. You toggle the dividend reinvestment setting on. You do not check the account except in January. The account by year 10 is at $74,000. You meet Angela at 31. Angela drives a Corolla. Angela on the second date asks about the Nighthawk. You tell Angela it's a 97. Angela nods. Angela does not technically say anything else. Angela on the fourth date gets on the back. The passenger seat is cracked at the seam. Angela says, "My older brother had one of these." You marry Angela at 33. You and Angela do not at the wedding arrive on the Nighthawk. You and Angela do, on the way home from the rehearsal dinner, take the Nighthawk. The Nighthawk is on that night 11 years old. Phase 2 is complete. The Nighthawk technically still runs. The chain Frank warned about is technically not a chain you have started. Phase 3. The pressure years. You are 34 to 40. The pressure starts in year 11. Year 11 is when Angela's boss buys a Harley Road King. Year 11 is when Derek at 32 leases a second Ducati. Year 11 is when the Nighthawk in March will not turn over in the cold, and you have to call your neighbor from a driveway at 6:40 in the morning. You replace the starter for $220. The Nighthawk starts again. The Nighthawk by year 12 has 85,000 miles on it. Year 12 is when the comments start at work. Year 12 is when a coworker named Tom calls the Nighthawk the relic in the parking lot. Year 12 is when, at the office picnic, a woman from Air asks, sincerely, if you're doing okay financially. You tell the woman from Air that you're doing okay financially. You do not technically tell her that you have $148,000 in the brokerage account. You ride home on the Nighthawk. Angela at year 13 asks the question. Angela asks it gently. Angela asks, "Do you ever think about getting a different bike?" You say, yes, I think about it almost every week and then I do the math. Angela says, show me the math. You show Angela the math. The math by year 13 has a column the napkin in 2000 did not have. The column says that the $74,000 in year 10 is by year 13, with market growth and continued contributions, $128,000. The column says that if the Nighthawk lasts, the column keeps climbing without you touching it. Angela reads the math. Angela does not technically say anything else. Angela keeps driving the Corolla. The Nighthawk stays in the garage. Phase 3 is complete. The Nighthawk technically has survived the years it was supposed to die. The pressure was, it turns out, the test the Nighthawk was built for. Phase 4, the weird years. You are 40 to 50. The Nighthawk by year 16 has 109,000 miles on it. The Nighthawk by year 16 has become a thing people talk about. Derek, who is now 38, has a third Ducati. Derek's neighbor, who is 42, has an electric motorcycle. Your coworker Tom, who once called the Nighthawk the relic, has in the past 8 years owned 5 bikes. Tom technically does not remember the joke. You do, in year 17, replace the clutch. You do, in year 18, replace the carburetors with a rebuild kit. You do, in year 19, replace the turn signal switch with a part you order online for $38 and a YouTube video that takes you an hour on a Sunday. The Nighthawk by year 19 has 122,000 miles on it. Frank by now is 71. Frank calls you the week you turn 43. Frank does not ask about the Nighthawk. Frank asks how you are. You tell Frank you're okay. You tell Frank the Nighthawk is at 122,000 miles. Frank on the phone laughs for the first time in 19 years of conversations about money. Frank says, I told you about the chain. You were the first person in 19 years who actually listened. The Nighthawk by year 20 has 127,000 miles on it. The brokerage account by year 20 is at $412,000. A man at a gas station in Ohio in 2020 says, my uncle had one of these, rode it to 130 before the top end went. You nod. You screw the gas cap back on. You ride home. Phase 4 is complete. The Nighthawk is technically an embarrassment at the dealership. The Nighthawk is technically the most profitable thing in your garage. Phase 5. The math reveals itself. You are 50. The Nighthawk in year 26 has 145,000 miles on it. The Nighthawk in May of your 50th year on a Tuesday morning at 7:10 in the parking lot of a coffee shop will not turn over. You call a tow for the 4th time in 26 years. The tow driver, who is 24, looks at the Nighthawk the way people look at a sleeping dog. The tow driver says, you ride this every day? You say, yes. The tow driver says, how long? You say, 26 years. The tow driver shakes his head. The tow driver hauls the Nighthawk to a mechanic. The mechanic calls you at noon. The mechanic says the top end is worn through, rings and valves both. The mechanic says the repair would be $2,200. The mechanic says gently that he would not technically recommend it. You sit at your desk at lunch. You do, for the first time in 26 years, the new math. The new math says that the brokerage account, the one fed every month by the bike payment that did not exist, is in May of your 50th year at $845,000. You go to the same shop you went to in 2000. The shop is technically run by the son of the man who sold you the original Nighthawk. The son walks you to a 2016 Honda CB500F with 18,000 miles on it. You pay $6,900 in cash. You ride it home. You sit in your kitchen that night. You do not put a piece of paper in a drawer. You do not technically need to. The math is by now automatic. Phase 5 is complete. The Nighthawk, the first one, finally died. The discipline that the Nighthawk was for 26 years the daily reminder of did not. Phase 6. What the motorcycle was actually about. You are 52. You are sitting at the garage with Frank. Frank is technically retired now. Frank wipes his hands slowly. Frank asks how the new bike is. You say, fine, it runs. Frank nods. Frank says, the Nighthawk was never the point. You know that. You say, I know that. Frank says, most people, when they hear this story, think the lesson is about the bike. The lesson is not about the bike. The lesson is about the fact that for 26 years, on roughly 7,008 100 mornings. You did not buy a bike you could have bought. The bike you did not buy is technically the entire savings account. You say, yes. Frank says, you did not save money. You imposed friction. The friction compounded. Most riders remove friction. Most riders pay for the convenience of removing friction. The thing you bought when you bought the Nighthawk in 2000 was the friction itself. The Nighthawk was the apparatus that made the friction durable for 26 years. Derek retires at 60. Derek's last day is a Friday in June. Derek, on his last day, rides a 2025 Ducati that is technically his 9th new bike since he was 22. Derek has in his retirement accounts $890,000. Derek is by every measure fine. You have at 52 $1,420,000 in the brokerage account, a paid-off house, and a 2016 CB500F with 21,000 miles on it. The difference between you and Derek is not the salary. The difference is not the index fund. The difference is one decision made on a Saturday in September in 2000 and made again on roughly 7,800 mornings after that, in the form of not making it. You think, sitting at the garage with Frank, about the man at the gas station in Ohio. You think about Tom and the relic. You think about the tow driver looking at the Nighthawk the way people look at a sleeping dog. You think the Nighthawk was for 26 years a question you answered every morning. The question was not, what should I ride? The question was, who am I? The Nighthawk was every morning for 26 years the answer. Phase 6 is complete. You are the patient. You are the boring. You are technically the person Frank had been waiting 19 years to meet. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, click here.